Yes guys, welcome back to another video. Welcome to GBFC 2, the George Benson Football Channel 2.0. I've been off this channel now for probably about 3 months. I think it's closer to 3 months than it is the 2 months that it says on the YouTube homepage. But I'm back. I was finding a way to try and balance the workload of trying to post like daily or almost daily, at least 5 or 6 a week videos on GBFC, and also talking to you guys on here with a bit less restriction in terms of the topics. And I didn't find it, and then I moved house and then I just forgot about it. I'm not gonna lie, but I'm here now. I would love to ask you to subscribe to this channel if you are new around here, because it is going to be an incredibly busy end to the Premier League season, an incredibly busy end to the Champions League season, all of the other leagues, and the Euros, just the small matter of the Euros, and whether I'm actually back in Europe or not, and whether fans can go to stadiums or not. There will be a daily series for the Euros where we basically sit here like I'm flipping, what's his face, Trevor McDonald, reading the news, and yeah, we're gonna focus on everything here on GBFC 2. Today, we're talking about probably my favourite human being who's ever existed on planet Earth, Frank Lampard. Do you remember that guy that was managing Chelsea? We had moments like this. I kind of missed that, not going to lie, but under Thomas Tuchel now, we cannot complain. We're going to talk a little bit about Lampard's next job. In fact, it's pretty much the entire video here today on GBFC 2. First things first, I only really addressed my true feelings on Lampard's sacking for a little while afterwards, and then, as always is the case with football, a new manager comes in, and then because you love your club, Chelsea, I then back Thomas Tuchel and stop complaining about my personal grief at Chelsea sacking Frank Lampard. And then, as a result of what's happened since, the decision from Chelsea Football Club has been strongly vindicated. Frank Lampard, in my humble opinion, despite my affection and affiliation towards the man, was out of his depth with this current Chelsea squad and with the expectations of the club. And although I think his appointment has actually boded so well for Chelsea's future, because he came in with this raw, young energy, and as a result of that, he gave chances to so many players who we now see starting for Chelsea in England every single weekend game. So I think for that reason alone, despite Lampard being sacked and not even completing, you know, more than a season and a half, I think his appointment was actually a big success for Chelsea Football Club overall, because obviously what we've done since is brought in a manager who has a bit more tactical know-how and has completely revolutionised the direction that the club is going in. So I think all of that is based off of the foundation of the players that Lampard brought through. As I've already said, the main reason why I feel as though Lampard was sacked is because he was out of his depth. I think when you are a footballer playing at the highest level for as long as Lampard was, and when the gap between finishing your professional playing career and becoming a manager is as small as it was for Lampard, I think it doesn't matter how much studying you do to attain the badges that you receive. Anyone can go and get a coaching badge. I'm not saying anyone because it's not true, but it's very easy in comparison to becoming a globally recognised successful football manager. It's a lot easier to go and get your badges than it is to actually start formulating a real tactical plan behind what makes you the best manager for your team. So when we compare Lampard and Tuchel, which isn't really what this video is about, but just to emphasise my point a bit more, Thomas Tuchel's been a manager now for quite some time. During that time, he's developed a plethora of styles, which means that depending on the team that he comes in to manage, he can use that tactical nuance that he has actually grown with within his managerial career to get the best out of the players available. With Frank Lampard, having managed Derby and then coming straight to Chelsea, he didn't have that luxury of the time to really curate that managerial and tactical style that all managers of big clubs who expect trophies desperately need in order to succeed. Now, that isn't to say that Lampard won't end up building this style that makes his management better than any other options. And I do believe that there is enough about Frank Lampard for us to be able to believe that he will become a successful manager in the future. Whether that is just from his playing career alone, that is enough to suggest that we know the geezer knows football. And with the success that he had throughout his playing career, he knows enough to actually take that forward. I believe in the dressing room at Chelsea, there were a lot of issues with communication, which as a psychology fan, you realise the importance of this pretty quickly. If you're not communicating properly and efficiently with the players who aren't playing every single week and who feel like they should be, the dressing room is very quickly going to turn into a toxic place. Now, I'm not saying it was toxicity that got Lampard out of the club, but it certainly wouldn't have helped matters interpersonally between Lampard and the players within communication and their friendships within the playing group, and then eventually results break down as a result. However, Frank Lampard being sacked from Chelsea does not mean that he retires from everything in life and goes and enjoys his time with his new baby and his wife, which, could be quite easy for him to do. Frank Lampard's next job. There has been some loose links to Celtic, who obviously this year things have not been good for Celtic. Steven Gerrard's Rangers have managed to win the SPL for the first time in 10 years. So it's chaos, you could say, at Celtic right now. They're not used to that. They don't want that. And Celtic, even though they're obviously a very big club, the step down in quality from Premier League management to the SPL is clearly evident. We know that. But a move to Celtic, I feel as though could be a good one for Frank Lampard, but I don't think it's going to happen. There is obviously the other options of lower end Premier League clubs. And at the moment, I think that would probably be, if we talk about Derby being here, Chelsea being here, and then Lampard's got to move on somewhere, we all know that at this point in time, it's going to be very hard for him to increase the calibre of club that he's just gone from and been sacked from, which is Chelsea. So his next step, he could be looking at it as a case of, right, I need to go back down to a championship club and manage a team like Derby again and really spend a bit of time there and try and get that team promoted to the Premier League to then give himself that leverage that he's not just managed and had a decent season in the championship, but he's managed to take a side in the Championship, which is an incredibly difficult league to actually get out of, and taken them to the next level, which is the Premier League. Premier League clubs might be looking at Lampard, and even though he was managing Chelsea, they still might see it as a bit too much of a risk. However, the one that I actually think would be an incredible appointment for Lampard, and I think in terms of if we look towards the bigger picture of where his managerial career could go, I would actually say that if Chelsea are up here, stepping down to a Premier League club and then down further to a Championship club, moving to England under-21s to manage the England under-21s would actually be less of a lower step down than a lower Premier League club or a Championship club. And I'll tell you why. I think with the England setup that we have right now and the abundance of quality young players coming through across all of the age groups, including the men's senior team right now as well, with what we've seen from Lampard's managerial style and his lack of fear of bringing young players through, when it's the under-21s, you've got no bloody choice. You've got to use the youngsters. And I think it would be the perfect job that has fitted what we've seen of him so far as a manager, being able to take footballers who are still establishing their styles, establishing their games, being able to imprint what he's learned as a professional footballer through his management, I think is absolutely massive. And I think, as we said earlier, the credit that we give to Lampard is for bringing through so many young players at Chelsea so fearlessly. Whether he had the option of signing anyone else or not is irrelevant. So I think moving to the England under-21s as Frank Lampard's next job would be the perfect way to really showcase and start building upon the small parts of his managerial style that he did do so successfully at Chelsea, which is bleeding through youth and helping players to develop their games when they're still impressionable at a very young age. Now, I'm sure we're going to find out a little bit more about this soon as to what Lampard's official next steps are going to be, but as a Chelsea fan, I will absolutely look back on Lampard's era. Despite it ending sourly, I will always look back on it as a nice stepping stone away from that era that we've just had into this young era where we spent a lot of money again, but we're building a serious side that can contend for many years. So that being said, my opinion on where Lampard should go next for his career is the England under-21s. I think it's a perfect segue into a bigger job, be it in the Premier League in the future if it's a success, or even the England job when Gareth Southgate decides to quit when we win the World Cup, which he might bloody well do. But anyway, thank you guys for watching. As I said at the beginning, if you are not yet subscribed to GBFC 2, I'd love to ask you to do so. And if we can hit 500 likes on today's video, that would be bloody wonderful. I'm back here now on the channel. I'll catch you all tomorrow.